Have you ever considered what the world would be like without pineapples? In today's Making a Mess series, I'm going to create a recipe that uses pineapple as a key ingredient in sweet and sour spam with ginger rice. And I'll share a little bit of history about Hawaii's Pineapple King. So stick around for Making a Mess with the Yankee Camper. Aloha! Today I'm going to put together a Hawaiian-inspired recipe for my Making a Mess series, sweet and sour spam with ginger rice. So let's put together the ingredients for our mise en place. First, we'll need a single packet of spam, a quarter of a cup of white rice. We'll add that white rice right into a plastic bag. Then into this, we're going to add a quarter of a teaspoon of minced onion, a third of a teaspoon of garlic powder, and a quarter of a teaspoon of ground ginger. We'll seal that up. We'll put that aside. Now we're also going to need 4 ounces of pineapple tidbits, 2 half-inch packets of soy sauce, 2 half-ounce packets of ketchup, 2 half-ounce packages of duck sauce. This commonly comes if you order like chicken fingers. And 2 packets of lemon crystals. In a separate baggie, you're going to want to add 1 teaspoon of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of cornstarch, a quarter of a teaspoon of salt, and a dash of black pepper. Lastly, you'll need to add a 4-ounce container of sweet peas. Grab a paper bag, mark it sweet and sour spam with ginger rice. Go ahead and put all of those ingredients right into the bag. Fill that bag up. And you're ready to make a Hawaiian treat out in the field. See ya in the cabin. If you've never had New England style Chinese food, you're missing out. I know most people come to New England for clam chowder, go to Maine for lobster, but when you're in the area, try the Chinese food at a long established restaurant, not at a food court. I really like the fried rice or lo mein, but the best part is at the end, they bring out a bowl of pineapple chunks. As a kid, this was always my favorite part. We didn't get a lot of dessert when I was growing up, but the Jade East always gave us a treat at the end of the meal, a fortune cookie and a bowl of pineapple to share. I didn't think about it then, but I now realize it was to wish my family a good and prosperous future. The pineapple has strong symbolism. It's a sign of hospitality and used by lots of businesses to show you that they are welcoming hosts. The story goes that when Christopher Columbus returned from his voyage in 1493, he brought back an exotic fruit, which he presented to Queen Isabella. She was impressed and decided she wanted more, because queens can do that, despite the incredible obstacle of pineapples only growing 3,000 miles away across an ocean. Nevertheless, the fruit, well, it's really not a fruit, but a fusion of berries, became popular with those who could afford it, kind of like a Rolls Royce, because they could cost as much as $8,000 apiece in today's money. Due to its exotic nature and expense, in Europe it came to represent someone who was well off, like royalty. In New England, returning ship captains would bring back pineapples and stake them out in front of their house to say to neighbors, "I've returned safely. Stop by and say hello, and I'll share some of my stories and adventures." Of course, leaving an expensive commodity out in front would also invite ne'er-do-wells to want to try it and might tempt them to help themselves. So wise captains would have wooden pineapples carved to represent the same thing and not get pilfered. Thus, the pineapple came to represent hospitality and can still be seen in front of houses along the east coast of America from Maine to Florida. Now, you know. Thanks for still being here. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And also, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe so I can bring you more content like this. Now, let's get back to making our recipe. It's the middle of November, and I'm here in a cabin at Mohawk State Forest in Charlemont, Massachusetts. This cabin is 90 years old. It was built in 1934 by the CCC. So for my supper tonight, I'm going to make sweet and sour Spam with ginger rice. The first thing we need to do is we need to get out the ingredients from our Mise en place. We have the rice mixture, Spam, the sweet and sour mix, some peas, some pineapple tidbits, and the different packets that we packed earlier. I'm just going to put this aside. Now the equipment we'll need from our mess kit is one of the measuring cups, lid, the smaller of the two saucepans, and the frying pan. To cook the rice, we'll need half of a cup of liquid. We'll start with the 4 ounces of peas, and we're just going to open that slightly and pour the water from the peas right into the cup. We'll put the peas aside for a moment. And that measures about 1/3 of a cup. You just want to top it up to a 1/2 a cup with the water. Pour that 1/2 a cup of liquid into the pan. Light the stove. And just place that liquid right onto the stove. Turn the heat up. And put the lid on. Now that's going to take about 5 minutes before it will start to heat up and boil. You want to get the water to a rolling boil, and then we'll add the rice. So that's been going for about 2 minutes. Take the lid off, place that on a pot holder. Open the mixture of our rice. Pour that in to the pot. Give it a good stir. Bring that up to a boil. Lower the heat so that it's just about a simmer. Put the top on and let that cook for 20 minutes without opening the lid. In the meantime, we'll open the Spam. Place that in the fry pan. You want to cut that Spam into 1/4 inch squares. Once you have all of that Spam cut up into cubes, set the pan aside. While the rice cooks, take your measuring cup and add in all of the ingredients from the packets. That's the soy sauce, the duck sauce, the ketchup, and the lemon. I find it easier to use your scissors from your pocket knife to just cut the tops off and pour those into the cup. I'm going to do that and then I'll be back. Once you've got all those packets mixed in, take your fork and just give that a mix. Open just a little bit of your pineapple and go ahead and pour that pineapple juice right into your measuring cup. Put the remaining pineapple aside. Keep an eye on your rice. If it starts to pop like it's starting to do now, lower that heat a little bit more. Then take your sweet and sour mixture, mostly cornstarch, and go ahead and put that in there as well. And once again, mix it up to make sure that you have all of the lumps from the cornstarch out. Once that's been completely mixed, you can go ahead and set that aside.
Toward the end of the 19th century, the Pacific Island chain, named by Captain James Cooke for his patron, the 4th Earl of Sandwich, was in turmoil. A coup over the monarchy had taken place by the industrialist children of the missionaries, and they had placed Sanford Dole as president, requesting annexation by the United States. Congress and President McKinley agreed and named Sanford Hawaii's first governor. In Jamaica Plain, now part of Boston, Jim Dole in his early 20s read of his second cousin's fortune and decided that he too could seek prosperity in the paradise of the Pacific by growing one of America's passion foods, coffee. He sold everything and borrowed a little to put together $1,500. Along with his recent Harvard degree in horticulture, James Drummond Dole set off to become the Coffee King. After living with his cousin, the governor, for a short period, Jim purchased some land north of Honolulu and started farming. But growing coffee is difficult, and Dole soon learned that the shrubs wouldn't thrive. Undeterred, Jim pivoted to another crop that would grow in the tropical climate, pineapples, and developed a method that helped the plant flourish in the Hawaiian soil. Sanford requested that the family name be preserved for the improvement and education of mankind, so thus was formed the Hawaiian Pineapple Company, or HAPCO, ready to sell to the world. Despite negative pushback from potential investors and others, Dole set a goal of making pineapples in Hawaii synonymous. The problem was, in 1903, most people had never heard of the fruit, so he worked with other growers to advertise in magazines and papers stateside. It's claimed that this was the first nationwide advertising crusade, and the campaign worked. Actually, so well that demand outstripped supply. You see, pineapples are actually quite prone to bruising. Only a portion of the crop sent was saleable upon arrival. It was even worse on the East Coast. Canning pineapples had been tried but with little success. Dole changed that by working with his engineer, Henry Janaka, to create a machine that could core, peel, and cut the delicate fruit at a speed of eventually over 100 per minute. Canning made the fruit easier to ship with less damage. By the 1930s, over 75% of all pineapples being sold worldwide were from Hapco, and people tasting the sweet golden fruit conjured up visions of ukuleles, hula, and Hawaiian paradise. Dole had become the undisputed pineapple king. I'll finish that story in a moment, but let's check in on the rice.
The rice has been simmering for 20 minutes. Take a pot holder, remove the rice from the heat. Just give it a quick check. Let's see how it looks. Well, that looks good. I'm going to give it a stir. Shut the heat off. Check it. Looks like it's stuck a little on the bottom. I probably had my heat a little too high. Set that aside and just let that sit. Let's relight the stove. Set that to about a medium heat and put the Spam on to let that heat through. That's probably going to take about 3 to 5 minutes. As the Spam starts to warm, you'll hear it begin to sizzle. Using either your spoon or a small spatula, continue to agitate that Spam so that it will brown on all sides. You may have to adjust the heat a little bit for that to work effectively. Now you may notice there's some black bits that have gathered on the bottom of the pan. That's okay, I'm just going to set the pan aside and I'm going to take a little bit of whatever juice may be left from the pineapple, pour that in and just use that to loosen those black bits up. Return that to the heat. Take your sweet and sour mixture. Give that another good whisk with your fork. And just pour that right into the hot frying pan. and continue to whisk that until it starts to bubble. As that sauce heats and bubbles, it'll start to thicken. Just continue to mix it around, letting it get a thicker consistency. That cornstarch will start to thicken up the sauce so that you get a nice trail behind the Spam. Remove the fry pan from the stove. Turn the stove down low. Add in the pineapple tidbits. And the peas. Mix those in until they're fully covered, and return the mixture back onto the heat.
When the orphaned cabin boy Henry Apuka Ahaya landed in Connecticut in 1819, he had no idea that he would set his native land on a course of world consequence. Henry simply wanted to learn. He had set into motion a series of events that led to New England initially sending 7 Christian couples to Hawaii in 1820 to spread the gospel. This number would swell to over 180 people during the next 40 years. These couples had children, and the boys grew to be enterprising young men who would look at the land as a source of fortune. Sugarcane had been cultivated in Hawaii by the natives since their arrival over 800 years before, but it wasn't until 1835 on Kauai that the cane was refined into sugar. Changes in the way the Hawaiian kingdom dealt with sugar production allowed the growth of sugar plantations. When the United States eliminated tariffs on Hawaiian sugar in 1875 in exchange for a naval base at Pearl Harbor, conglomerates emerged on the islands known as the Big Five. Sugar became the #1 export of Hawaii, primarily to the U.S. These corporations moved beyond just sugar, however, into transportation, utilities, and banking. One of these companies, started by Samuel Northrop Castle and Amos Starr Cooke in 1851, had started out shipping their commodities to those seeking to get rich quick from the gold in California. When Jim Dole set foot on Hawaiian soil, they had grown into a major player. Dole kept growing his business, even buying the island of Lanai in 1922. He continued to expand, improving the canning process in the Janaka machine, which was now able to capture the juice from the pineapples to be sold in addition to the fruit. All of these innovations came at a price, however, and Dole continued to borrow and sell shares in his company, including to Castle and Cooke. The pineapple magnate even sponsored an air race to Hawaii in 1927 with a $25,000 prize. The derby didn't turn out as expected, with several of the pilots going missing, presumed dead, and a number of the airplanes crashing, as only 2 of the starting 18 aircraft arrived in Honolulu. As the Great Depression struck, sales of pineapples slumped, and the juice was all that kept the company afloat. It was difficult to maintain control, and despite his best efforts, in 1932, Jim lost majority share to Castle and Cooke, and was forced to accept the honorary role of chairman of the board in HAPCO. No longer owner of the company, he had built from nothing. James Dole retired from the Hawaiian Pineapple Company in 1948. Suffering from a number of ailments, he died of a heart attack in May 1958. 3 years later, 1961, Castle and Cooke purchased the remainder of HPC and renamed the company to Dole. They expanded worldwide, moving pineapple production to tropical locations throughout the world, including Thailand, Ecuador, and Costa Rica. Only a tiny percentage of Dole pineapples are still grown in Hawaii. They also expanded the brand to include bananas, apricots, and avocados, as well as citrus fruits. In 1985, billionaire David Murdoch acquired Castle & Cooke, and in 1996, he split Dole into a separate company. Today, Dole owns a significant share, between 30 and 35%, of the global fruit market. Now, you know. Let's finish up making supper.
In the meantime, I'm going to use a bowl. Spoon the rice. Into the bowl. I'm keeping an eye on the mixture while it heats through. Set that aside. Mix this around to get it hot all the way through. Won't take very long for the pineapple and the peas to heat up. Let's give that a quick taste test. Could use another minute. Once that mixture is thoroughly heated, remove it from the stove and turn the stove off. And then just put it right over your rice. Sweet and sour Spam over ginger rice. I'm going to eat my supper. Clean up your mess. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video as much as I've enjoyed making it. If you want to see more of my recipes, please subscribe to my channel. I try to put a video out every week. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it on your social media. I'd really, really appreciate that. Thank you for watching.